It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear to God, if I ever see the sun, or for any length of time, I can hold it in my mind, I never again will go down underground.
This is the story of the Sneddons and the McNeils and the coal mining culture which informed their lives. The Industrial Revolution reached its full stride in the UK in the mid-18th century. It was fueled by coal, and the mining of coal became a vital part of the industrializing world. The coal and shale mines of the West Lothian region of Scotland offered job opportunities to Scotland's poor young men. But the working conditions were wretched, dangerous, the workload grueling, and the pay meager in the extreme. Even before 1851, our McNeil and Sneddon ancestors were already established as part of a brutally hard and dangerous intergenerational coal mining tradition. Sons followed their fathers into the mines, married the daughters of miners, forming a tight-knit community with a shared mining culture. That's how it was with the McNeils and the Sneddons. The following excerpts are from the recorded BBC stories told by miners who remember what it was like in the bygone days of mining.
You could almost say it was slavery. I worked myself on a seam, and it was only 1'5" high. The floor to the ceiling, that's from the floor to the ceiling, is 1'5". The conditions was horrible, horrible. At that time, your wages was never any more than 10 and threepence. You got paid in accordance with the amount of coal you produced. If you produced no coal, you got no money.
One of the redeeming factors about working in the coal pit is the comradeship you get. This intense, physical, violent work, violent in a relationship, but tremendously loyal in effect.
And I remember going home from the pit time after time at the end of the day shift, and you sat in the big chair, and before your soup came through you were sound asleep. And that was based on sheer hard work and lack of ventilation.
They said that the medical a mine rescue man got was more stringent than an airline pilot. So they say. But part of that medical was a test called the Harvard Part Test. This was a test where you carried a third of your weight in lead, and you had to do 30 steps a minute for 5 minutes, and at the end of that they just caught you and put you in an easy chair. But mine rescue men will remember that test. It was really a hard test.
We realised within a quarter or half an hour that there was no road through anywhere that we was trapped in. It didn't give me a churn up in the belly or anything like that. It was just accepted. There was 116 men that there was no road at that time for them trapped in. Some people talk more than others. So one of the men that was talking to me said, "We are quite hopeful of making a rescue." The word's still crystal clear in my mind, and that was the first pang of fear I had in my belly when he made that statement. We are still hopeful, which means that there must have been a no hope side to it. Well, that's who I took it, and it gave me a wee bit pang of fear in my belly. The brigade man come up, they just showed you a mouthpiece, your lips goes over this big flange and your teeth bite onto two prongs that come out. and that was the brigade man himself turned on the wee knob, and you just, the three of you left with the brigade man. That half mile wasn't all in glass, but we had the salvas on for the full half mile. I realised I was going to, my knees was going to buckle, so I just stopped and put my hand on my knees and put my head down, and the brigade man just come up and just looked at me. So I think maybe I was going out to auction for it. He just swiped this mouthpiece off me, and he shoved on a blow moxter, and just his move, and he propelled me down. And within another years there was the two lights, that was the advanced fresh air base. It was actually like the recovery of their bodies. They'd been cold and exhausted, and they just lay down, but their boots were off. As if they went to bed, their boots was lying at the side, and they was lying just tight together dead.
In the 18th and early 19th century, a miner's wife and children often worked with him in the mine. The mining methods were primitive. The conditions were dangerous in the extreme. Even women and children put in grueling 12-hour workdays. The owners of mines built towns on the mining property to provide for the needs of the miners. These mining towns were called collieries, and the miners were called colliers. The mines were called pits, and the men spoke about working in the pit. With pick and shovel, the men would cut out the coal from the coal face. The wives and daughters would haul the coal to the mine entrance, called the coal bank. They were called putters. Sometimes they pushed or pulled carts full of coal. Other times they carried it on their backs in big, heavy baskets called creels. When husbands died, some wives had no choice but to take on their husband's work in addition to their own, often while having to care for the very youngest of their children. These they brought with them to the mine. Sons as young as 4 and 5 years old would become trappers. Their job was to stand guard at the ventilation doors, opening them only to allow the coal putters to pass through with their heavy loads. Older sons were set to work at a variety of jobs. The younger lads became breakers. They had the back-breaking job of sorting coal. The older lads loosened coal from the coal face or hauled coal out of the mine. It was not unusual for the men, women, and children working in the mine to accidentally fall to their death as they climbed up and down the shaft's slippery ladders. Shaft depths usually varied between 120 to 180 feet, or they might be killed by falling debris from the coal roof. Explosions were another danger. The historic records tell us that the Sneddons were mining coal long before Scotland began collecting census data. As early as the late 1600s, the Sneddons were working in the collieries of Bowness as coal miners under those deplorable conditions. Queen Victoria and the general public became aware of these conditions in 1838, when 26 boys and girls aged 8 through 16, died in the Huskar pit disaster after violent thunderstorms flooded the ventilation shaft and disabled the escape route up through the main shaft. Queen Victoria ordered an immediate inquiry. The inquiry resulted in a scathing document which listed all accidents, deaths, and unsafe practices for every mine in the UK. The resulting Mines and Collieries Act of 1842 prohibited the employment of women and girls in mines and collieries, prohibited the employment of boys under the age of 10, regulated the employment of boys over 10 years of age, and made provisions for the safety of all persons working therein. The death of young Robert Sneddon is listed in the 1840 Scottish Register of Mine Fatalities. 3 months later, his 15-year-old sister went to work in the mine as a putter. She reported her brother's death as follows: "I have only worked at Bona's pit 3 months. Should not have gone, but Brother Robert was killed on the 21st of January last. A piece of the roof fell upon his head, and he died instantly. He was brought home, coffined, and buried in Bowness churchyard. No one ever came to inquire about how he was killed. They never do in this place. Mother has had 13 children. 5 only are alive. She does not work below just now, as no need. 4, including father, work below." In 1851, Thomas Sneddon, a seasoned miner, lost his life in a mining accident near Falkirk. The Falkirk Herald reported the incident as follows: 9 September 1851, fatal accident near Falkirk. An accident occurred at one of the pits at Blackbraes Colliery near Falkirk on Tuesday morning, by which one individual lost his life and another was severely injured. The 2 men were standing at the foot of the pit, and one of them, who was about to ascend to the top of the pit, had just given the signal for the hatch to be raised, when a piece of timber of the kind commonly known as trees fell from above and, striking him on the head, killed him on the spot. It also struck the man who was standing beside him, and hurt him so severely that for some time it was hardly expected he would recover. But we are glad to learn that his life is now considered to be out of danger. The name of the man who was killed was Thomas Sneddon. He occupied the situation of underground overseer, and was a steady, respectable man of industrious habits. He had no children, but he has left a widow who, it is consoling to learn, will be saved from poverty by the fruits of her husband's prudent saving habits. The McNeils also appear as miners as far back as the records have so far allowed us to go. In the 1841 census, our ancestor, Neil McNeil, born 1801, is listed as a coal miner, and so were his sons, 18-year-old Malcolm and 14-year-old Neil. His son William, born 1829, was only 12 years old. In the 1851 census, his sons William and Neil, now ages 20 and 23, appear as coal miners living with their mother in the Blackbraes Colliery. The fate of their father, Neil, remains a mystery. In the 1881 census, William is now a 54-year-old coal miner who is married to Margaret Marshall, a coal miner's daughter. 2 of his sons, 15-year-old Neil and 13-year-old John, are already in the coal mines. Malcolm Daniel was only 9 years old. We don't know how old he was when he joined his brothers in the mine. We do know that in 1892 he was a 21-year-old miner who married 20-year-old Margaret Sneddon, a coal miner's daughter. In 1893, they emigrated to the coal region of America with their 7-month-old son, William. In America, 3 of his sons continued the coal mining tradition.
At the age of 16 years, with my father close to tears, as he vowed never again to send his sons to the dark recess of the mines, where you age before your time, and the coal dust lies heavy on your lungs. It's a working man I am, and I've been down underground, and I swear still alive, and the wheels above